really everyone can get out there in some form with their digital point of view, their presence. Everyone's an influencer of something in some niche, some personal passion or pursuit. It's not about number of followers. It's about what you know.
Evan, so wonderful to be talking with you here today. Thank you so much for joining us on Lead Tail TV.
Thanks for having me. I'm a fan of yours, as you probably know, and human to human, here we are.
Yes, we are. Although, these days we go human to Zoom to human. So we're going to be in this new era of live video streaming, which ironically is something that you are very well known in. And, I've admired you for not just that, but everything that you've been doing and how you just show up in the world and how you bring community together and people together. One of the things that really impresses me is how consistent you are in everything that you do. And back on the live video and live streaming, I'm curious. I'd love to just jump right in and just talk to you a little bit about that first, on why live streaming is a better way to communicate, especially right now, to B2B audiences.
Yeah, such an interesting question, and it was quite a pivot for me. I actually hated live video in particular. I hated staring at my big mug on video. I saw it as something 16-year-olds did on Twitch, and it wasn't really relevant to enterprise technology. And then the pandemic hit, and all of that face-to-face stuff went virtual, and in particular, live became a way to really interact in a meaningful way in real time, obviously, and connect and leverage all these platforms that are just desperate for live streaming traffic. And so I've come around full circle to hating it to loving it. Imagine that.
That's quite a full circle from hating to loving. What's one thing that you, I guess, love about it that now you look at it as this wonderful place to be?
Well, it's interesting. I'm a numbers guy and a tech geek, and so when I started measuring the impact of live streaming, live video versus post-production, high quality edited video, there's just such a massive gap. Thanks to the platforms and the way they preference live traffic and promote it, and the way the audience, serendipitously consumes live traffic, that there's really no other way to have an impact via live on social media. And given that's my wheelhouse, being a social media content creator and quasi guru, it really was apparent live is the way forward, and it's kind of the wave of the future for social media in all aspects, whether it's content creation, marketing, e-commerce, selling. It's really happening live now.
Why do you think more B2B brands aren't taking advantage of this and using live video?
Well, our space. We're stuck about 10 to 15 years in the past of marketing. We're doing things as B2B sales and marketing people that we've always used to do. Golf outings and email campaigns and white papers. And the industry is very conservative, very staid, and it just isn't adopting any of the leading edge, cutting edge digital social technologies that are available out there. It sort of just waits until it's either too late or it jumps on the bandwagon. So such is the life of a B2B marketer.
Yeah. Do you think it'll ever catch up, or do you think something new is going to come in? Because marketing is it evolves so fast, especially now, given what we're looking at with AI and machine learning and, virtual reality, all that kind of stuff. You think live video is going to catch up eventually to B2B brands, and they'll get a chance to,
I think
really
so.
take advantage
I
of it?
think the winners are waking up and realizing the power of it, and the power of live content and interaction and engagement in general. And so the ones that will succeed are succeeding, are leveraging live all over the place, are becoming content generation machines, and live is just one component of that. But there's a whole class of people who are frankly lost on social media, who aren't turning into content creation engines, who aren't leveraging best practices in content marketing, who aren't leveraging social media to its full potential. And they're going to be left behind. Disruption isn't easy, as the dinosaurs found out a few 100 million years ago.
Oh, that's for sure. That's for sure. I know, live streams naturally, they invite more audience interactivity. That's one of the things that I love about it. Because now you can either engage with your audience as you're on live stream, which is not necessarily asynchronous, in any other kind of posts other than live streams. So what do you think are some ways that B2B marketers can capitalize on that feature alone just to connect with their potential customers?
Yeah, I think capturing that real-time engagement is wonderful. Interacting with your audience live through comments and shout outs is kind of fun. And screw ups are fun too, when the cat runs on your desk and just gets in the frame. So real life is what, and real genuine conversations, human to human conversations, are what people want. And so when you're live, you're not on a script. You're not reading a teleprompter unless you're the POTUS. And so people realize that this is the real you. And I think that's kind of intriguing as a complement to everything else we're doing in social and digital.
Oh, so well said. I mean, it's one of those things where everybody wants to feel seen. And when you feel seen, like I think you just said, when you said you call out people or you do certain things, it really helps others to not just interact, but take on a whole new dimension. It's almost like being involved in a movie you're watching, or being involved in, something where you get a chance to be with the topic, not just be on the topic. And so, what are more ways that people can take advantage of, or even do after the live stream, to capitalize on the engagement they've received on the video?
Yeah, I mean, live doesn't preclude reuse of content as well. So every live I do, I take the MP4 and chop it up into, highlight reels that could go on Shorts or Reels or TikTok or other platforms. You could create quotes. You can create an audio podcast of the live video. So these days, content reuse, resharing, repurposing is like the name of the game in digital marketing. So it's really tremendous opportunity, and very light lifting. These live platforms do it all. So you don't really have to have an AV person or a studio recording house to kind of create great looking and sounding content. It's really a sea change in how we did things in the past. You used to go into a studio and have a big green screen, and you'd be surrounded by $100,000 worth of equipment. And basically, you now can be your own personal little media engine with no limits. So it's a really exciting shift to the content creators from the big agencies or broadcasters or large firms that typically had a stranglehold on any kind of video content.
Do you think that any of the shifts or changes with social media, recently Facebook changed its feed, I know you're huge on Twitter and LinkedIn, and all the platforms are constantly changing. Is there ways that this content can be used in feeds, after it ends or during the show, that that will still have that kind of relevance as social changes?
Yeah, no, I think Google and YouTube are still the 800-pound gorilla. And if you want to get seen and heard and searched and referenced and found, you just have to be on these platforms. And so doing YouTube shorts, doing YouTube videos, even if you don't have a giant audience, is really the way to reach that very narrow audience. And B2B, we're going after audiences of tens or hundreds or thousands, not millions. So you'd really have to use some of these platforms to really reach and educate and communicate with your audience. And they're all there. Used to be, we used to hear, doctors and maybe physicians and dentists, they don't spend time on social media. Well, we all do now. Every profession, every industry, every vertical, there is a platform to reach them. And increasingly it has to do with video and social.
Amen. And one of the things that I know, like if you look at the Gary V approach, it's take, content and slice it up and put it out there in 54 different ways. I just heard you say you love it. What do you love about that?
Well, I love the opportunity to get a maximum bang for the buck. Most people don't have time to spend 12 hours a day on digital and social platforms like I do, nor is it healthy. I wouldn't recommend it. But if you have an hour a week to create a cornerstone piece of content, that can be deployed in 25 different ways over different platforms over the course of that next week. So you don't have to invest. This is the biggest complaint I get from executives, from clients. I don't have the time, right? No one has the time. Well, you have an hour a week to commit to creating a really interesting piece of content. And when you have that content that you can deploy simultaneously as an audio podcast, as video snippets, as a vlog, as a LinkedIn article with a video component, all of a sudden you're getting, the multiplier effect, right? You're getting, 20 times the use out of that one piece of content. And I think live has a lot of opportunities there for that.
Do you think it's something where someone can do that themselves, or does it take a team to do that?
Increasingly, the tools are there, and you have to understand the tools. I won't plug StreamYard, but that's one example. The tools are increasingly sophisticated, where you can have AI create videos based on your blogs. You can have AI automatically edit, sort of post-produce them. You have tools that AI can now write for you. It's amazingly good content. So there's no excuse for an individual not being able to leverage either automation and tools or resources like you find on Fiverr or other platforms to help you along the way for pretty short money. So yeah, I think with the right approach, I'm an individual like myself, can really move the needle without hiring, without having a very large team at all.
Wow. Yep. The tools are coming, and they're, if not already here. I agree with you. And this is one of my favorite areas, as you know, and that's how do you humanize something and stay human and authentic within this zone of, being able to automate, being able to artificially intelligate. I just made that up, by the way.
I love that. I'm going to totally steal that. I love, a great example is, I'm not an artist, I'm not a designer, but I can go on Dolly or a dozen other platforms like it and create an amazing logo or image from my business or a picture from my blog, basically by describing to AI the type of picture, image, or photograph I'm looking for. So, that would cost you hundreds of dollars with a graphic designer over several weeks to create, even last year. So all these opportunities are creating this sort of Cambrian explosion of content creation opportunities. And there's really no limits now.
So how do you think that the authenticity piece comes through? How do you stay authentic, or how do B2B brands stay authentic to their audience? When they, is it engagement? Is it more, how do they buy from the people that they want to trust? Because if it's automated in AI, where is that trust factor, and what is the human factor and all that?
Great question. I think it's about putting the employees out there to the degree they're open and interested to the public, identifying those internal evangelists and getting them on the platforms. It's putting the C-suite sort of on the front line, and not hiding behind, PR and marketing. It's human to human, right? It's humanizing the brand by putting the people first, not the brand. And every company that's successful in doing that, you have Dreamforce this week, with Salesforce, like Mark Benioff is out in the front, including with his own social presence, his own point of view, belief system, and leading from the front. And if brands did more of that, they'd have more of that sort of human appeal.
Well, that's a mic drop right there. I love that, because it really signifies that you can't replace, a human being at all with where we look to our leaders, or even just our thought leaders within the companies. I know you get hired yourself to help in influence marketing and thought leadership, and I'm curious, and I know everybody be curious how that might work in an authentic way as they're hiring influencers or thought leaders like yourself.
Yeah, I really help them just put a spotlight on internal employees who are doing amazing work. I remember at Dell interviewing an engineer just at the ground level in autonomous driving and AI. And this person wasn't out there publicly on social, but together we through interviews and podcasts, we kind of shared his point of view and his perspective. So it's really tag teaming with amazing resources that exist in all these companies and putting them forward together with influencers to kind of co-create really compelling content. And something I'll be doing with a brand actually in New York City, sitting down for several hours, just discussing topics with a CTO, and then using that as a piece of content to get engagement and attention. So it's still about people, luckily for us.
That's such a neat, you have a neat job. I love your job.
It's a fun job, yes, and it beats the cubicle and 25 years in the corporate rat race. That's for sure. So, very happy to be independent. And in this era of recession and downsizing and uncertainty, really everyone can get out there in some form with their digital point of view, their presence. Everyone's an influencer, something in some niche, some personal passion or pursuit. It's not about number of followers. It's about what you know. And it's not often really who you know or what you know. It's kind of who knows you. And putting yourself out there, making yourself vulnerable, and connecting on these networks can be very powerful personally and professionally.
There's a great power also in something that I've seen you do, and I'm a part of. I don't get to participate as much, and I'm sure you heard that a lot. But you have this genuine way of building community and creating communities where people are helping other people. And I know I'm in one of your groups on Twitter, and just am fascinated by how you do that. Community is my favorite thing in the world. I wish I had more time for it. I'm sure you hear that all the time. And so I'm curious, how do you use maybe live streaming or anything to build a better, more engaged community, a human community?
That's a great point. And that applies to individuals. Everyone has their quote unquote Rolodex. In the old days, it used to sit on our desk and like twirl around. These days, it's your personal connections, contacts from business, industry. And that's important. That's sort of your inner circle. But there's another outer circle of people, of followers, of people who engage with you and your content, of connections that you make online through Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Insta, et cetera. And these second order or weaker connections, if they can be harnessed and nurtured and engaged with, can really become a powerful community where you support each other, educate each other, share each other's content, and just have fun chatting and discussing, trending topics of the day. So I do that on LinkedIn, I do that on Twitter, and increasingly now there are even tools to sort of formalize those groups. You know, there are many WhatsApp groups that are similar. Everyone knows what the Facebook groups look like, but these are more intimate opportunities to collaborate with 10, 20, 50, 100, 200 people in your second or third order circle. And so if you're an individual, it's kind of like a mastermind or support group of sorts. If you're a company and you can get your 2, 3, 400 fans, activated and engaged as part of a community building exercise, that becomes even more powerful. And it's two-way. You're not just asking for something, you're giving something and supporting each other. So whatever platform you're on, there's a way to build that community.
Do you think the community lives better in one place over another right now? Because the reason I bring that up is because we don't really own the communities if we're on social media platforms, even though they're under our name, that can be taken away at any time. Is that something that you think about, or is that not necessarily something that matters most?
Yeah, that definitely matters. I mean, the platforms are easy because it allows you immediate engagement, but there are third-party tools like Circle that allow you to build your own private personal communities, much like social networks, and engage with those, directly without having Facebook or Twitter kind of overseeing, that engagement. And I think one of the most popular apps on the App Store now is like Be Real. I don't know if you tried that, but that's basically your
we got to connect.
Of real people having real discussions, no distorted lenses and humble bragging. It's just people connecting with people. So I think that sort of micro approach to social is one of the biggest up and coming aspects of connecting.
So now we have to connect on Be Real. Now that I know you're on there, and
I'm not on there actually. I'm reading. I read the headline, but I'll join and we can connect and be real.
I will send you an invite. It's
cool.
Actually more. I would think it's more my favorite thing because you have 2 minutes every day where it says now is your time to post, and you have 2 minutes to post wherever you're at. It takes away the perfection we're trying to put out and puts the authenticity back into who we are and where we're at. So I love that you brought that up, that you have, you think about those things. And I'm curious, like what you brought up some tools like Circle and, I know there's Mighty Networks and, there's a lot of different tools out there. What tools do you recommend for B2B marketers to take advantage of the trends towards that authenticity and connection on social media?
Well, the tools are there, but a lot of people aren't using them. I mean, most people are on LinkedIn, but they're not doing LinkedIn Live. They're not leveraging the articles feature. They're not using the creator mode, which Google it if you don't know what that is. They're not leveraging LinkedIn Audio, which has a real-time audio collaboration piece. They're not leveraging some of the groups you can create. So all the platforms have a lot of features that folks just aren't really educated on. Twitter has circles, or you can have DM groups or communities now on Twitter. You can also have an email newsletter, which people can subscribe to directly. You can have your own shop on Twitter as well. So there are a lot of features that are constantly being rolled out, and people aren't as obsessive as I am as far as keeping up to date. But in each of the platforms, there's some place to connect and collaborate.
You threw out some great stuff there, and I just to kind of put a bow on it, putting and throwing out a lot of mud at the wall, and saying, okay, well, there's all this stuff, like it's almost endless. What's your best guidance on how to choose the right strategy for you?
Yeah, I think it's to be a practitioner and really experiment with each of them. You mentioned Be Real just a moment ago, and that I read about it. It's fundraising, it's the latest thing, but I hadn't actually tried it. So people are reading headlines about, Twitter and Elon Musk buying them, or they're reading headlines about LinkedIn or some new feature, but they're not actually rolling up their sleeves and getting their hands dirty and trying these things. So dive in and try all these features. Try real-time drop-in audio on Clubhouse or Twitter Spaces and see what sticks. See what looks interesting and see what you connect with personally, and kind of go from there. And maybe 2 or 3 platforms that really kind of generate the most engagement and curiosity.
Speaking of engagement, this is kind of where I want to close out. I could talk to you all day, but and also be careful of your time. When you have a strong engagement, and I've got you here on camera, so I got to ask, how do you look at engagement, and how do you create that kind of engagement that you have done so well?
I think the fatal challenge most brands have, and many people, is they make their social digital feeds all about themselves constantly. It's me, look at me, the endless selfies, the endless, and I'm a fan of promotion, don't get me wrong, but the endless self promotion. And really, you're just not that interesting. Not you, Brian, you are interesting, but as there's always someone or something more interesting than you. So why not shift the focus on someone else? Raise someone out, talk about someone else, congratulate them, put a spotlight on the content they're creating. And it's brands, it's the same. It's just like a product feed or a press release feed. Why don't the brands focus their spotlight on others, on causes, on employees, on their customers, and not endlessly on themselves, their products and solutions? So I think that would be the biggest advice. If you look at my feed, you'll see a lot about me, but 80% of it's about other people, other things than myself.
So Evan, it was so nice to be able to actually engage with you here and have you on Lead Tail TV. I love following you and creating conversations, both online, on social, and now here. And I just appreciate your time. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's a delight, as always.
Cheers.